this winter. And another part of the renovation is the addition of multiple social spaces throughout the outfield, including things like drink rails, bars, viewing platforms. These are sure to become some of the new favorite spots to hang out with your friends at the ballpark. Visit BlueJays.com/renovation today to sign up for more details as they are revealed. Love these animations or renderings. Dan Schulman, Buck Martinez over there, and right in the middle, the president and CEO of the Blue Jays, Mark Shapiro, who has had that smile on his face all day today. You just can't make him stop.
I tell you, first, before we start talking about the renovation, Buck, I want to tell you how much we feel more complete having you back and just welcome you back personally. It didn't feel right with you not being here, and I know I'm just echoing the sentiment of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans who have already let you know that, but welcome home. Welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be back. I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you.
Well, Mark, as we mentioned earlier today, did a presentation for the media, then it went out on social media, so a lot of the fans have seen things. And, Mark, maybe a good jumping off point for you is one of the first things you said today is you want to change this as Teoscar lines one to right, but it'll be caught by Reyes. You want to change this from a stadium to a ballpark, and I didn't know. You said this is one of only 3 baseball stadiums or ballparks that was not conceived as a baseball-only facility.
Right.
I don't know what the other 2 are off the top of my head, but you want to make this as ballparkish as you can.
Right, and I think there was in its time when it was built 33 years ago, it was obviously an engineering marvel that it still is, but it was also a very homogeneous kind of one experience. Not a lot of differentiation, not a lot of intimacy, character, diversity of experiences, and as ballparks have evolved, they've created spaces that, that allow our fans and allow all baseball fans to experience the games in different ways. And I read a quote from Buck that pretty accurately articulated. I mean, some fans want to be at the game, but not necessarily be watching every pitch. They just want to be able to go to the coolest bar in the city or the coolest rooftop patio that happens to be inside of the stadium, but still have the ball game in the backdrop and kind of turn and watch and high five when home runs hit and celebrate a Blue Jays win. So we'll create more intimacy for the pure baseball fan that wants to connect with the players and be close to the players. We'll also create some really unique spaces that don't exist in this ballpark today.
Yeah, I think the competition for the entertainment dollar has just exploded now, and you made a great point. Rooftop bars in the ballpark, and we saw that in Baltimore. We've seen it in Fenway Park.
Colorado has a great one, too, in Denver. So it's been some of these things have been done, but they haven't been done that are inherently Toronto. And we're going to take the best of what we see in Toronto, talking to the people that own those spaces and that go to those spaces. And I think, again, I get back to, we need to have a compelling fan experience. It can't just be good only when the Blue Jays are winning. And right now, I think a lot of what this ballpark offers, it's a good ballpark. It's fine. It's great when we're winning and it's packed. Otherwise, the experience is not compelling, and we're going to hopefully have that winning team, championship team, along with a compelling fan experience.
So year one, or off-season number 1, is largely, from the fans' point of view, I know there are behind-the-scenes things like the weight room and the family room, but for the fans, it's largely the outfield areas that are going to be changed, right?
The biggest changes year one for the fans will be the entire 500 level, which will all have new seats. These are the original seats from 1989 across the entire 500 level. And then, most dramatically, the outfield, which is going to be...
Chapman lines it down the line, and it's gone.
Attaboy, Chappie.
He stays hot, number 17 on the season.
Yeah, he's made some subtle adjustments we talked about, and he's got a lot of confidence right now. And he's not thinking about generating a lot of power, but because he's so relaxed and he's letting the ball travel, he is really hitting the ball hard recently. Yeah, and he had a good series.
And the greatest thing about him is no matter what he's doing offensively, he helps you win night in and night out defensively. He makes incredibly hard plays to people that may have not watched the game on a frequent basis look so easy. And I mean, there's a play or two every single night I look at that he makes and go, I just don't think people realize how hard a play that is to make. The way he picks hops, his reads and angles, and his ability to throw in the run, Buck, I'm sure it's remarkable.
He's one of the best, no question about it, and he's going to talk about himself right now. You want to put my average up on the scoreboard, please?
Now Espinal skies one down the third baseline, and it'll be Baez in foul territory. Well, we have seen some of these before, but Mark, let's give you this monitor here. We'll turn that monitor here, and you take us through what you're about to see on your screen.
And this is just kind of a fly, looking at what the right field corner is going to look like as we peel back layers in the 200 level, create those decks. And then I think one of the things I didn't get a chance to mention, we're raising the bullpens and bringing the outfield fan seats right to the edge of the fence. So around those bullpens will be seats that are on top of one on either side. it's going to be a chance for our fans to really support and encourage Blue Jays relievers and maybe disparage the visiting. I would never encourage that, but that could happen. There could be some, Toronto fans have been known to heckle a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
When provoked.
When provoked. Only when provoked.
Only when
However,
provoked.
pinstripes tend to provoke them.
Yes, well.
Yeah, just naturally.
Fair, yeah,
and they, listen, they've provoked me. They provoked me since I was a little kid, and that sticks with me today. So.
Well, you grew up around the Orioles, of course.
That's why they provoked me.
And you know the ballpark there in Camden Yards, one of the best
It
ever.
is, yeah.
And you mentioned something that surprised Dan and I today about the foul territory here at this ballpark. It's second only to Oakland is foul territory, so that the prospects eventually, not the first phase, but eventually you're going to move the seats closer to the field?
In year 2, yeah. We're going to literally rip out the entire lower bowl, and we're going to reconstruct that. It's going to create some unique spaces underneath it.
You can call it, Mark. You can call it.
I don't think so.
Nice catch.
Oh, I was off on Castro's ball. I thought that until I watched George, I thought that was a double off the wall.
That's what we thought too.
Yeah.
Can you stick around a little bit?
I can stick around.
You can stick around a little bit. We'll talk more about the renovations coming to the ballpark when we come back. Completely transformed this offseason. As Mark said, the seats closer to the action. Fans will get closer to the game than ever before. You won't want to miss out. Visit BlueJays.com/season tickets today to check out views from the new seats. A great way to decide where you want to buy your season tickets. A nice packed house, or maybe a little rapid fire, Mark, as we keep you here for another half inning. People have been peppering me with questions on Twitter. 2 that I've gotten asked a lot. Capacity. It will go down, obviously, but do you know by how much? And what color will the seats be?
I haven't had that one yet. That's the first one. So the capacity will not go down dramatically in year 1, and we're still kind of figuring that out. But a lot of seats will move, though, from static seats to standing room only seats as we create spaces that aren't even ticketed spaces, but more amenities. So I think when we finish the redesign of the bowl, the lower bowl, the fact that we're widening the seats a little bit in the upper deck and going to put much wider, more comfortable seats and with better angles of watching the game in the lower bowl. Right now, some of the seats in the lower bowl shockingly don't point towards the pitcher and the batter because they were made for multi-purpose in football and other sports. So when we do all that, that will change the capacity and lower it. We're not sure yet how much. I guess the number I can give you would be almost all new stadiums and ballparks being built today are 15 to 20% less capacity than the last generation. We're not going to get to that number because it's a renovation, not a new build. We would probably if it was a new build, but it'll be closer to 40,000 than 50,000 by the time we're done probably.
And will the seats be blue still?
They will be blue, but that was not an easy decision. We considered a whole bunch of alternatives, something dramatic, different levels, different colors and different levels, and we figured that's Dodger Stadium, not Toronto. We looked at green because it's a classic ballpark color, and that's Camden Yards. That's not Toronto as well. And we settled on a blue. It may be a little different shade of blue and a little more uniform than what you're seeing right now. We've got the faded original 1989 blue in the 500 level, and then different seats in the outfield that in the 200 level that are a little darker, but you'll see a more uniform, probably darker shade of blue in the as we finalize the seat colors.
I had the opportunity to do the first game at Jacobs Field, and I did the first game at Camden Yards. And both were fantastic events. But
first game at Jacobs Field was an extra inning. What was a long game?
Yeah, it was Randy Johnson, I think. Sutcliffe started in Baltimore, and I was fortunate to do those games. You mentioned something today I thought was really fascinating. I'd like to ask you more about it. You said you went to a lot of arenas, a lot of stadiums, a lot of ballparks to see what other teams were doing. Did you see those stadiums with fans involved, when fans are involved, to see what the fan interaction was?
Yeah, I think a mixture, but almost always you want to see it with fans in it. You want to see how they interact in the spaces. You want to see how they use the spaces. You're looking at them for pieces and parts. You're not saying, oh, this is the stadium we need to build. We need to rebuild Texas or Atlanta or Minnesota in Toronto. No, we're not going to do that. But
pick and choose.
This bar space in Minnesota or this team history space in Atlanta. There's some things here that we want to bring back and take. So it's taking ideas and then to frame what best in class looks like, Buck, including the player spaces like the Cubs. Locker room, the clubhouse is unbelievable. And then saying, okay, that's what they're doing. Now, how do we make this uniquely Toronto Blue Jay?
I got another question that just came into my mind. You've been to Dodger Stadium. Dan and I have been to Dodger Stadium. They have a history aspect of the stadium with gold gloves and trophies and uniforms. I don't think anybody can match it the way it's set up.
Yeah. I think incorporating team history, even though ours is not as long as the Dodgers' history, is something that's a priority for us. Deciding how we do that is still something we're working through. It doesn't fall naturally within the scope. However, we can incorporate it into some of the premium spaces and do some pretty cool stuff. But it's something that probably is going to be in a third phase and not in first and second phase. But it is something third phase and not in first and second phase. But it is something we talk about all the time. What's the right? Museums are kind of outdated. How do you incorporate that? And Minnesota does a really good job of it as well. And so does Atlanta behind home plate.
Mark, one of the things, and I don't think you can give exact specifics, but we saw in the renderings, it's not going to be a cookie cutter fence anymore.
Yeah,
it'll have some curves to it, and it looked like in center field it'll be lower. I think it's 10 feet now. It'll be a little bit lower than that, so we'll see some guys going over the wall to bring the ball back every now and again.
Not only going over the wall, but think back to the Springer Grand Slam a couple nights ago.
Right.
It kind of went into that dark abyss of the service area. That will never happen again. That'll be flying out to a 13-year-old young woman with a glove, on the other side of the fence, because we're going to have fans all the way across. There'll be no gaps in the fence anymore. So I think that the two things are some unique angles. We think it's going to play neutral over the course of a season, but there will be some nights where a ball kind of hits off where it jets out a little bit because of the bullpens and the angles we're creating in the bullpens, and takes a weird angle. And to me, that's a ballpark all the way back to the history of baseball, where there was no uniformity in fences, and you saw some crazy angles and attributes. We're going to be very subtle, but we'll have different fence heights throughout the ballpark, as well as some unique angles created.
We've got room here. Can we get a ping pong table or something? Is that in the budget?
We need to think very carefully about the home broadcast space. But we will not consult you, because we don't have that. We don't have the Shulman budget. We don't have the Shulman budget.
As long as we're here, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
2 down and nobody on. 1 and 2. The count on Victor Reyes. How about Yusei Kikuchi in his return to the rotation, getting through 5, giving up just 1 run. Mark, exciting stuff. Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Shapiro.
Thank you.
Great to
Let's
have
go
you.
down to Hazel.